you said this week was a bit rough.
Yeah, this week sucked.
What's up?
I mean, it was the 7th of October on Monday. And honestly, the actual day, I didn't feel that bad on the actual anniversary of it because everyone was posting, like, people were posting a lot, and there was a lot of solidarity, and the resistance groups were posting all of their, operations for the last year and just getting to, watching Makava tanks explode. It's great. It's nice. But then the next day, like seeing that there actually wasn't a lot of people. My algorithm is just, Palestine. And then once that filters out, I see what everyone else is up to. And they were just, boring shit, usual shit, outfits, matcha, daisies. And that made me mad, not gonna lie.
So Daisies was a bit of a flop this year.
That's good.
They had like a repeat headliner.
Honestly, I was hoping that Israel would strike Iran over the Daisies weekend so that petrol would go up and so that it would be very expensive to drive home from Darling.
Wait, what?
I was hoping for the worst.
You were hoping Israel strikes Iran.
No, they're gonna retaliate somehow. And so I was just hoping it would be then so that petrol would go up and it'd be expensive to drive home from Darling.
Ugh.
I'm a hater, just let me hate.
Yeah,
it's fine if I hate.
Let you hate. Anyway, shall we kick off?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Nah, never that.
Okay.
Never that.
Yeah, this we not that type of podcast.
Nah, never that.
So we are on Victory Certain, and it's episode 3.
Yeah, episode 3.
Yeah, we want to talk today about colonizer language.
Yeah.
I want to tell you a couple of hours ago before you came, I watched the Bob Marley movie, and it started out with just the word like Jamaica got its independence in 1973, and I was like, I always feel a way not to like, okay, I'm a history graduate, but it annoys me when you see that word independence gained as opposed to now we free.
Yeah. Liberation.
Yeah, as opposed to liberation, because independence means that at some point you were dependent.
Yeah, and it also has no moral connotation.
For sure.
Yeah, like not having independence. It doesn't seem like it's the worst thing ever.
Yeah, and I mean that's just a small example of some of the the language that's used by oppressors. And I wanted to get your thoughts on just language like that's used in the current situation. So, for example, you are gonna get called a radicalist soon. How does that make you feel?
No, I'm really called radical all the time.
Well, why?
I mean, I mostly because I support the resistance and I don't believe in a 2-state solution. I believe in a 1-state solution, and I believe in land reclamation and paying your workers a minimum wage, just basic model stuff. But the way that colonial language works is to degrade the very simple model understanding of things, and to use Western values and logic and rationality to make it seem like the things that you rightfully own, the things that are yours, it's just a little bit ridiculous for you to want it, It's radical for you to want basic stuff.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily bad. I guess it's this language that keeps following up with whatever you do. You told me someone was telling you you're a warmonger.
Yeah.
In the week. What is a what's a monger?
I don't know. I actually don't know.
I just see that word all the time.
But yeah, I got told I was a warmonger. Obviously the usual terrorist vibes. But the warmonger thing was kind of funny because it's this idea that we aren't supposed to ever use violence, ever at all. However, the colonialists, they are allowed to use violence. Their violence is justified when they protect the things that they've stolen. They can use violence, but when we fight back for the things that belong to us, it's, we should do peace negotiations instead. Negotiations is also another colonial element. It's just, you took it from us violently. You aren't giving it back. In order to maintain the system, it's violent. Like, even just the structures itself is violent, and then the actual like perpetuation and maintenance of the system is violent. But you expect that it's gonna they're gonna stop. They're gonna just give it to you if you ask nicely, if you go into negotiations. It's completely ridiculous. Like, it's just stupid.
Yeah, this seems like a common issue with anyone that's being discriminated against or under any form of like pressure. It's, oh, follow the process.
Yeah.
The process will take its course.
Why do we not have the right to violence? We do. Literally, under international law, we have the right to self-defense. We have the right to armed resistance when occupied, when people are like stealing, and like, you have the right to armed resistance.
And the people who are like always telling you and others when they are in a tough situation, are like, no, don't be a hooligan, don't protest.
Yeah.
Let the process take its
It's a
hold.
dignified
Don't go
struggle.
strike.
Don't get angry. Don't shout. Don't swear.
Yeah,
You degrade yourself when you do these things. You bring disrepute to the struggle by behaving like a animal.
yeah.
And those terms are all reserved for us. It's not ever for the colonialists. Like, what they do is not inherently barbaric and uncivilized and savage, even though it is. But those words and those ideas are just reserved for us. Anytime that like, nobody, like, a lot of people don't consider that. A lot of people in my DMs constantly are people of color. They tell me I'm a warmonger or I'm supporting terrorist organizations. They're people of color. And it just shows like they still have a colonial mindset. They still have this need to maintain, white civility politics, white respectability.
Bro,
It's nonsense.
So you know about the teacher cuts that's happening right now.
Yeah.
I wanna like ask teachers, how did that following the process thing go?
Yeah.
Because what's about to happen is still about to happen. Like, over 2,000 teachers are about to lose their jobs. And if you were in that space of like, no, don't protest, you were part of the problem.
Yeah.
You were part of the problem, and what's about to happen is about to happen because you were too scared to do anything.
Yeah.
So then the WCD were like, the best thing you guys can do is actually, you guys should work with us, not against us. And it's typical, like,
Negotiate.
Negotiate. Like,
Sit at the table and tell us how many of the mines we're going to take.
Yeah.
And how many white people can keep their jobs and keep their pension. And we're never going to talk about land reclamation. That's for a different negotiation.
Never. And I mean, that's why things will stay the same if we like detract from and we use language to facilitate the like mental colonization.
Yeah, I mean, it's linguistic determinism. It's it's like a fancy term for, if you don't have the language to explain or articulate something, then you can't conceptualize it. Without the idea, without the word rebellion, you can't really think about the idea of rebellion. It's kind of what George Orwell's 1984 is about, and the Newspeak in 1984.
Can you wait before you go off? Mm-hmm. What's 1984 about?
It's a dystopian future by George Orwell. A very militarized society, big brothers watching you at every turn. Everyone's pimping you out. In order to maintain this society, you have to follow a lot of rules, and there's a lot of people watching you to make sure that you do.
Okay, I just asked because I don't want my like book nerd card. Not that I want my book nerd card to go away, but I just wanted people to know.
Yeah.
And with that, you were saying like linguistic dissonance. Is that what it's called?
Determinism. Yeah.
On it.
Yeah, so the idea that if you don't have the capacity to explain or articulate, and if you don't have words for things, that you can't conceptualize the thing itself, And I think like a lot of the colonial language, that's what it seeks to do. It seeks to prevent you from ever having any thoughts about it by taking the language away. So calling people radical because they believe in very basic human rights, calling people like irrational because they don't believe, like telling people that they should negotiate because or you should seek peace, and you shouldn't be like irrational to talk about a one state solution, or to talk about going to the 48 borders and not to the 67 borders. You shouldn't be irrational. It's irrational for you to expect that the current occupiers would get up and leave the land that they are occupying. That's like irrational. You shouldn't be so crazy to imagine that. And yet, we're supposed to be, logical in the way that we see their occupation. It's supposed to be like, this is something that we can understand. This is something we can wrap our heads around and accept. This idea that it's violent occupation, that they have to rape people in order to maintain this occupation, that they've had to kill what we know at this point 42,000 people, estimated over 100,000 people just in the last year, not taking into account all the massacres that came before this.
You're going to be like, if you say that, you're a conspiracy theorist, which is another one of the words.
Yeah.
How do you, I guess, like, are you ever scared of being called a conspiracy theorist?
No. I think like the first step to decolonization is to decolonize your mind and to not allow the colonialists to ever determine the way that you think or the way that you feel. The minute that you give in to their language, their rhetoric, the way that you frame things are according to them, the arguments that you make is in defense of the arguments that they make, that's when you fall into the trap. You mustn't. The nature of indigenous people or people under subjugation of a colonialist is that they know a truth that is undeniable. It's very simple and uncomplicated, that you don't take what isn't yours. It's the most like basic understanding of things. And somehow that gets lost in like all of this. The idea of like land reclamation to us is so absurd and bizarre, because we should just be happy with the fact that we got pushed out and dispossessed a million times. And so because of that, like, it shapes the way that we think about Palestine, because it's like, well, white people got to stay here and they got to keep their pension and their government jobs after apartheid. The sunset clauses. They have the mines. They have control over all our resources. So why should Tel Aviv cease to be Tel Aviv? Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, the actual normality behind settlers is ever bothering.
Yeah.
Just an example of how narrative is shaped. I don't know if you had these books growing up. I was talking to you about Childcraft.
Yeah.
It's these kids' encyclopedias. I was reading the first one, and it's about the history of South Africa, and they were like the British settlers came in and worked with worked with the Indian contracted workers.
Oh.
But it's just like a typical. And back then, if you were like, I'm sure if you spoke about like slavery and whatever, you'd be a conspiracy theorist. So like, I guess it becomes like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
At this point, don't be afraid of that title.
Yeah.
We were initially going to speak about the degradation of humanity, and it ties into this language model, because part of the language that we use right now, like genocide and just like dead children, it's strange, but that language doesn't have as much impact anymore.
Yeah, the word like colonialism, occupation, apartheid, genocide, it doesn't have the same punch. Well, I don't know if it's ever had a punch for certain people, but it certainly has lost a lot of its impact, because it's been said so many times and it's fallen on deaf ears so many times. I don't know how many times we had to scream genocide, occupation, apartheid, and it's most disgusting for me, and it's been most degrading for me, especially over the last week. It being a year that like that's what we experienced. And on a daily basis, you either it's a spectrum of Jan van Riebeeck or Vervoet. Like that's who you get out here that defends this entity. That's the spectrum. Either you get someone who's like, yeah, but apartheid, like let's just have, two classes of citizens. Like that makes more sense. Or you get full blown Jan van Riebeeck, kill them all. It's one of the two. It's a spectrum. But other than that, it's yeah.
Do you think that, like, we're all witnesses, and it's almost shameful at this point. It is shameful at this point. We witnessing what's happening, and a lot of the time, like, we're not doing anything, or it feels like we're not doing anything.
Yeah, but I think that that's like part of the degradation as well, to make us feel like complicit in it somehow. And in a lot of ways, like we are complicit in it. We allow it. We maintain it. To live in a world where you tolerate genocide is maintaining genocide, and it's maintaining occupation and apartheid. We shouldn't tolerate it. We shouldn't normalize it. We shouldn't act like it's fine. But at the same time, it isn't us that's doing it. And I think we feel so much guilt and obligation, and there's an extent to which that is necessary. But at the same time, it's part of the degradation, like witnessing this unfold in front of us after we've witnessed it so many other times, and forcing ourselves to like bear witness to it. It's part of the degradation. They want you to also watch and see how nothing changes, nothing will change, regardless of how much violence they can inflict and perpetuate. Nothing will change.
And I think it's in those moments we also can take stock of the like small things that we are doing.
Yeah, and the things that are creating change and impacting this entity. It's the fact that their economy has been destroyed. It's the fact that boycotts are working. McDonald's recently blamed Muslim people for a drop in sales. Burger King is rebranding and changing their name. KFC has also, yeah. Starbucks says like they've closed a whole bunch of branches in the Middle East. It's serious. Like we are affecting them economically. More than that, we've changed the way that we talk about this. No one's scared of like being called anti-Semitic anymore. You know it's bullshit. And you push back against it, and you won't allow someone to call you anti-Semitic or call you a terrorist and be backed into a corner. The fear has been taken out of this conversation, and I think that's important. Like it's really important. If you're wearing a keffiyeh and someone calls you a terrorist, you're gonna shout at them, and the chances are that the people around you will shout at them too. Like and I think that's important. It's not, it feels like it's not enough because it's not happening fast enough, and it's not solving anything, and people are still dying. But ultimately, you can't believe that this is going to go on forever. And you can't believe that it's just like, that this is the end of it, that they can't perpetuate this violence forever and ever, because they can't and they won't. Like every single colonial entity has fallen. Where's the Dutch East India Company today? Like, what is the Netherlands? The Hague is there. That's about it. Cecil John Rhodes. Homeboy was talking about, I want a railway from Cape to Cairo. Homeboy is now just a statue in a basement. After talking about, I'm gonna build Africa on the back of black people.
Yeah.
Now he's in a basement.
Yeah.
And there's no railway. There's not De Beers, high shame. De Beers, what they started off having 80%, 90% of the shares in the diamond market. Now they are 30. The Oppenheimers gone. Nicky Oppenheimer, the last of them, he didn't even inherit anything. So colonial entities, they all collapse, all of them. They will, and we have to remember that and not allow them to take that from us.
Take stock of that this year. That has happened.
And not only that, like the idea that this entity will collapse and that all colonial entities will collapse, it mustn't only come from this hope and this faith that it will. It must come from the belief that what is yours is yours. It's yours. You will take it. Like the Shoot to Kill song that was almost banned in this country.
Oh, the one we were just listening to.
Yeah. the lyrics in that song, like other than
let me play it quickly.
yeah, go for it.
Keep talking about it.
But the lyrics in the song, it means all these people, they are our own, and the one after that is it's ours, we're taking it. And like even that like it's ours, we're taking it sounds aggressive, it sounds violent, it sounds like a little bit scary. But that's the colonial like mindset that we have, that we aren't allowed to just take what is ours. The idea that we would just take it is almost absurd to an extent. And I think like we have to get to a point where we realize like it's ours. It's ours. Whether or not they have it until we die, and we never see liberation, and we never see the land, we never see whatever, it's still ours. Like just because someone stole it doesn't mean it's theirs at any point. The degradation and the dehumanization that they place on us, that doesn't reflect on us, it reflects on them. And I think so many times, especially like being South African and being colored and being like degraded, and in so many ways you're like, for real, like colored people have never been loved out here. But you always feel like the burden of what they've done. And it's wrong. Like I don't know why we feel that. I don't know why we feel to blame for the things that they've done to us. I don't know why we feel shame for what they've done to us. If anything, like we should be proud in the fact that like we withstood all of this nonsense, and we continue to be here, and we continue to push back, and there's no like a chance that anyone ever will see this position. Maybe not us, but definitely our children, definitely their children.
Yeah,
there's always going to be resistance. There's always going to be, like Cecil John Rhodes, when he said we're gonna build Africa on the backs of black people. I mean, he used the rude word for black people, but when he said that, he looked out, sitting on the hill there in Cape Town, looking out at the Cape Flats, and he really, really thought, I can do this because no one's ever gonna try and push against it. They can never conceptualize or imagine the idea that people will not allow you to take what is theirs. You're not gonna take it. Like you can get away with it for a little while, but not forever. Yeah. And I think that's also like the thing that gives me a lot of hope, is that all colonial empires have fallen into nothingness.
I think that everything you just said is something you needed to hear, I needed to hear, everyone needed to hear. It's like we need to remember that we have come far.
Yeah.
And even though it's not the change that we wanted, it's still change.
Yeah.
And we still have a ways to go, but
and you mustn't allow them to take your dignity.
Yeah,
most of all.
Don't let them take your dignity. Here's the song, by the way.